we have the opportunity to be able to share laws that we have all synthesized through different experiences in life. And therefore today we want to be able to speak about generational family wealth. How do we make the coin make sense in terms of breaking this cycle that we are talking about? And if we speak about generational wealth, then we have to come back to the essence of wealth itself. Wealth is broken down in a few ways, and I just want to jump in and speak about building blocks of wealth. We have to realize that wealth is broken down, and wealth is broken down into three, because there are three economic participants. Number one is a person, number two is a business, and number three is a government. Wealth cannot stand outside the confines of these three pillars. Personal is interesting because personal brings us to a place where we cannot blame it to the next guy. It's personal. We have to take responsibility because it's personal. And if it's purely in us, then the challenge will be discipline. The Bible says, guard your heart. Because from it, exactly. So the heart is not the muscle. The heart is the heart of your mind. And it's important for us to appreciate that and see it and run with it. If the heart that he's speaking about is your mind, then the mind is split as well into three. And these minds we want to be able to, in a very simple way, appreciate them. But the reason we want to appreciate them is because we want to apply discipline in these particular minds. Because outside the confines of discipline, then we can't control the mind. We are at a place where we're trying to tame a mind that has a mind of its own. And they say the human mind is not built to work for you. The human mind is subjected to work for you. So the human mind is actually built to work against you, because the human mind will always try to protect you. The human mind will help you avoid things that are unknown or unfamiliar, things that cause pain, and things that cause you to be anxious. But yet, isn't that the ingredient of success? To jump into places that are unfamiliar, to do things that are painful, and to do it while you're afraid anyway. So if you follow the mind of your mind, then the mind of your mind will not necessarily work for you. The mind of your mind will work against you, because the mind of your mind will wait for you to feel, and feelings become the trigger that the mind wants to follow. But feelings are deceiving, because the economy runs on two feelings: greed and fear. So when we are greedy, is it really building? When we are fearful, is it really? So they say when greed or fear is injected into the human mind, they become irrational. And he is saying, I have not given you the spirit of fear, but a sound mind. Irrationalism is not soundness of mind. So that's not what we are looking for. We are looking for soundness of mind, working from a place of rest. Be still and know. Be still where? Be still. Why is the mind being told to be still? Because the mind of your mind is not still. Greed and fear will make it run everywhere. So the first mind of your mind is the spiritual mind. It's important for us to look at these things back from a discipleship point of view. Look at this thing from a discipleship point of view. Why? Discipleship is basically transfer of disciplines. Discipleship does not necessarily mean a spiritual concept, but discipleship, as it was built in ancient history as a very important concept that people needed to work on. And this is the thing. They say the epitome of human desire is to be important. And therefore people needed to be important, and honor was built from the importance. And even today, when you meet people, they get offended when you don't let them give you their business card, because you don't appreciate how important. And therefore in ancient history, people wanted to be so important to a point where when the king honored you, that was the highest importance. Kings would not honor men for their prowess, but kings used to honor you because of the people you transferred your discipline to. Yeah. You've seen all Kung Fu's movie. Every master has a place where many people are here. Because honor was correlated to that. That's where the king would come to honor you, because the king would come to see the exhibition of your discipline that has been transferred into other people. And that was called discipleship. Make sense? Yeah. So we have to look at these things from that perspective of discipleship, that our honor will not come from what we pocket. Our honor will come from the disciplines that we transfer, because inheritance changed. If we're speaking about generations, it's no longer what we leave for our children, it's what we leave. Exactly. Discipleship needs to go back to its core meaning, which is not necessarily a religious meaning. It's just a society meaning that makes sense. So as we speak of this, we need to conceptualize it from a point where we know the best way to learn is to teach. So knowing that I'm not receiving it for my consumption, I'm receiving it for a third party's consumption. But how will they consume unless they first see your fruits? They need to see that the principles, the discipline has worked in you, because a tree is known by its fruits, and we are leading a generation that listens with their eyes. Unless they see our fruits, they will not give us their reception. They will not believe that the principles we are speaking about work. So they better work for us first before we earn the moral authority to speak to them. And that's a discipline, and it's hard. Na dream work, why don't you just give me the template so that I use it, and they are receptive for us to disciple them. So this mind, the first mind, is the spiritual mind. So what is the spiritual mind? Think of it from a point of you consuming it. Think of it from a point of your kids consuming it, and your kids consuming it. And therefore, the spiritual mind is about two things. Number one, values. And there came a time where a generation was born that did not Joseph. Yeah. What were they trying to tell us? They were trying to tell us that a generation was born that didn't have the same values. Generations are moving. In our setting, we started with the pre-colonial generation. Pre-colonial generation, they had their desires, and their desire was liberty. All they could talk about is liberty. Wherever they are, the pre-colonial generation was obsessed with committing through their value to fight for liberty. And when you would not align to fight for liberty, you looked like a person who's misaligned with your values. Yeah. The next generation was post-colonial generation. It was a whole different generation. To them, they didn't care for Amandla. They cared for ownership. Yeah. Kamchanga. Yeah. So if you cannot stand by and show a Kamchanga, they thought that you did not have, you had misaligned values. Because to them, the end of the expression of values is where you get to, you see, my child is so disciplined, they even bought a Kamchanga. Now, their children don't care for the Kamchanga, they're the millennials. And now the millennials are caring for something completely different. They care for access. Yeah. They want to share. Yeah. They're coming into a commonwealth state of thought, where they're saying, what is mine is ours. And they're killing all these industries that the previous generation created. They've killed media because instead of watching that movie and cheza chini, they share the movie. Instead of listening to the song, they are sharing the song. Instead of reading a book, they are sharing the book. And things have changed. Economy has changed as we used to know it. Because now it's no longer an ownership economy. It's now called the access economy. In the ownership economy, I used to own this gadget, then I add a margin. It was margin-based economy. Now we're in a different economy. It's called the zero margin economy. Zero margin economy because now people are not selling for a margin. Now we are actually getting into a place where people are giving freemium because the product is not the product anymore. The product is a medium to carry the product. And now we are in a different generation that has just been born, and it's called Generation Z. Generation Z are the children of millennials, and now they don't care for what millennials cared for. Millennials cared for access. Sindio? Now we have a generation that is called the cultureless generation that doesn't know Joseph. Yeah? A cultureless generation that does not care for the same things. They don't care for gadgets and fashion. That's all millennials care for. They now care. They are saying authenticity is the new smart. Yeah. And they're saying this is the most conscious generation because this is generation that knows our inheritance has been squandered anyway. So they're bitter.
Next time on Clean Money Weekend.
So these kids are talking about completely different things. These kids don't care to stand and look the part. No, they care for authentic. The conflict of interest of a society is expecting values to bring multiplication. Values have nothing to do with multiplication, but we have to adapt some philosophies, some laws, some principles for multiplication.
This is Clean Money TV.